All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob for Smirking Gun Reviews, and today we are starting the first episode of what I am tentatively calling Final Viewings. Now, I mentioned this on my channel update. I mentioned this, I believe, on at least one other video where basically the idea for this video series is I'm a little older than I'd like to be. To put it mildly. Like, I'm not old, but I'm older than I'd like to be. And I started thinking about how as you get older, eventually you have to start being able to say goodbye to things that you know you're never going to really do again, or in this case, watch again. And throughout my life, I have seen, like, I know what people can say. I've seen a lot of movies, and there are people that can say they've seen a lot of movies, and I've seen a lot of movies. Probably, if you're one of those people that, movies and stuff were your thing, you know what I'm talking about. There are people that have seen a lot of movies, and then there's some of us that have seen a lot of movies. Now there's other people, like people that I really respect, like Brad Jones, who have seen a lot of movies. Because he watches a lot more than I could put up with. Same as like the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000, who watch a lot of movies because they watch a lot of bad stuff. What this is though is movies that I've seen that I kind of have to admit I will probably never see again. The criteria for this is that I have to have seen it at least once, and I had to have had, at the time that I remember seeing it, having liked it enough to where I need to give it one last viewing before I just go and make this video. And then even if nobody watches these, I would at least have a record of my memories of the movie that I had seen. And it's just a nice way to talk about things like this and movies that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Or maybe, just movies that I just know, even if it's a recent movie that I just know I'll never see again. Kind of like the test run wasn't really Hostiles, but Hostiles might fall in that category of movies that I probably don't need to see again. But since it's like I had just seen it, who's to say that I won't see it down the road. But today, since this is the first episode, I wanted to do one that is special, at least to me. A good one to really start with, to get me motivated to continue with this series. And thinking about movies that I liked, that I haven't seen in a long time, and I probably won't see again, I finally came up with 1984's Runaway, starring Tom Selleck, and it's got, Gene Simmons is the villain. And yes, it's that Gene Simmons from Kiss. Cynthia Rhodes is in this. Kirstie Alley, G.W. Bailey, who you could remember as the asshole like sergeant from the Police Academy movies. Stan Shaw, who's been in a ton of stuff. The most recent thing is that really bad Jeepers Creepers 3 where he played the sheriff. And Joey Kramer, who, when I was a kid, the other big movie that he was in that I really liked was Flight of the Navigator, where he played David. So that's the cast. Now, this movie came out in December 1984. I was 9. And this movie comes with, like, when I started watching it, it comes with some firsts. I might as well start playing the trailer in the background here. It comes with some firsts for me because it was PG-13, but I was 9 and my parents let me go see this. Now, we liked it so much that even though it had some things in it that I, as a 9-year-old, should not be seeing, they let me go see it. We saw it, I think, at least twice at the theaters, maybe even 3 times, and I remember really liking it. Before I get into the plot and stuff, I mean, this was like, I think, about the first movie where I saw boobs on screen. Like, oh my goodness, I was 9, so I hadn't even hit puberty yet, but it was like, what the hell? And then I think it was the first time that I heard fuck in a movie, which was just crazy at the time. And I remember, like, it started bringing me back as I was watching it, like, oh my gosh, I think I remember that time that when Tom Selleck said fuck in the movie. It just flashed me to that time where I think my parents were really upset for like a half a second, because otherwise they wouldn't have let us go see it again. And so this was just like, I remember really digging this movie. And even as a 9-year-old, it kind of shows like what I was really into, what I got into not too soon after that, like reading things like The Far Side, like just kind of being above my age level on certain things. And so this movie also comes with a very crazy personal story that is really the reason why I chose this as the first movie, because this does have a pretty weird story to go along with it in my real life. So this movie came out, like I said, in December of 1984. And after seeing it, I don't know how long down the line it was after seeing it, but Gene Simmons, bad guy in this, Luther. Let's get this back to whatever. So he's the bad guy in this, and wow, great. I've got ads playing in front of my fucking trailer. Okay, so anyway, well, that's why these things are experiments. Try to see what you can do right and wrong. So anyway, I don't know how long down the road this happened, but it had to be pretty soon. But after seeing it a few times, his character scared me. And it's his face. And if you see his face, like, it's not like, he doesn't have makeup on like he does in Kiss. He's just kind of a stare. See that? He's kind of a scary looking dude. He's got these great eyes, great face. And one day I was walking past our laundry room, and I looked to the left where their laundry room was, and my 9-year-old imagination saw his face in between the washer and the dryer. And I fucking freaked out. And I ran up the stairs, and my mom was at work, and it must have been like, because either the weekend, because it was during the day and we weren't at school. And so it was either like long enough down the line where it was like spring break or something, but this movie had carried with me, fucking spider, enough to where I thought I saw this guy in our basement, and I ran upstairs and I freaked my sisters out. I'm like, oh my God, the guy, he's down in the basement and he's gonna try to kill us. And here's where it gets messed up, because my imagination, as I've been told over the years, is pretty vivid and pretty wild. And after a few minutes, I knew that there was nothing there. I knew I had just scared myself. But then I decided that I needed to scare my sisters even further. I scared the hell out of my sisters because I convinced them that this guy was still in the house. I was a little bastard at 9 years old. And I ended up pretending to have like a fight with him in the bathroom. And it got so bad that my just younger sister decided to get on her bike and ride into town to find our mom. Needless to say, I got into big ass trouble, was grounded for like a week from television because I just ran with it. I don't know why. I just was a stupid 9-year-old kid who was scared and then ran and then decided to play a trick on his sister. So if my sisters ever see this, I am so sorry for that shit. I can't even imagine, like, thinking back now, how my sister rode her bike 3 miles into town to get our mother. And man, when my mom came back, she was just fucking livid. But they never stopped showing me crazy movies. They never stopped, like, they didn't really, edit TV and movies from us. So it's like, well, how can you fault me for having a crazy imagination? But the tricking part was my fault. I was a little bastard. But anyway, so now let's talk about this movie. Okay, so like I said, Tom Selleck is in this. His name is John Ramsey. How do you come back from that story and then talk about this movie? So anyway, his name is John Ramsey, and he works in like this robotic, it's in the near future, and his division of the police force is this like robotics task force that goes after robots that go haywire on people. And it's he's got like some issues. Tom Selleck is really good in this. And by the way, this is also written and directed by Michael Crichton. So there's you know, since most of his stuff is a lot about technology and stuff, this was right up his alley. I do wish that he had maybe waited to make this movie, because this really could have been like, if they had waited till like maybe, here we go again. If they had waited to make this movie in like the 90s and gotten like Spielberg to direct it, this movie could have been like a technological and pretty interesting story, because this story has some really cool aspects to it. I could see why it didn't do well at the box office. Critics were kind of mixed on it. But like I said, Tom Selleck's really good as this kind of understated performance as this guy who, he's got a fear of heights, so you know that's going to come up at some point in the movie. And he had this thing where he couldn't go into a building, and somebody went, the guy that escaped from him ended up killing like a whole bunch of people, and he got away. And so he said he'd never want to do that again, so he joined this like task force. And so for the first like 30-40 minutes of this movie, it's just John taking his new partner Cynthia Rhodes out to different calls. So the first call is like they go out to this like farm where one of these little harvesters has gone rogue, and it's simple. You know, they just got to chase down this robot. First of all, fuck logic, okay? Logic goes right out the window in a lot of this stuff. You just kind of have to accept it, which is fine, because for a cheesy movie, and it is kind of, you know, like it's got this like B movie quality, but taken kind of seriously, and the performances are kind of taken seriously. So the situations are kind of dumb, but like, I don't know. It's a likable movie, and it's got some pretty tense moments. So like just at the beginning here, where they're just chasing down this little harvester, it's got a nice little beginning, a nice little way to introduce this like job that they do. And then the second job they do though is way different. There's this robot that has started murdering people in the house. It's killed like at least 1 or 2 people, and it's got like a baby, and it's like there's a baby left in the building, and okay. So this robot's got like a knife and like killed some people in the house. And there's a baby being held hostage. And the father comes home, and he's like, he freaks out because he knows something else is going on. But he just bails on his kid, man, his baby. He just like takes off. And he goes in there, and now the robot's got a .357 Magnum. Now, I don't know how the big robot got a gun, how it knew where the gun was, how it knew what a gun is. Forget it. I don't care. And it's just like how he stops this robot from getting a gun, you know, killing the baby. And it's got like a tense moment, and you know, it's kind of tense because you don't know where the robot is. They do like kind of some interesting like dark camera work, and it's kind of intense. This stupid reporter goes in with him that he says, don't go in there with me, and he ends up getting killed. Like, just gets blasted by a .357. But anyway, he saves the day, he stops the robot, he gets the baby out. Okay, so then they're like third call, they go, and this like loader on a construction site is like dropping bags of cement on the ground, which could kill somebody. But they're just kind of walking in like, all right, but it's a building high up, and so he lets her like take the job, and this is just done. It's over. She's like, I did it, you know, yay. And, you know, he takes, you know, they go back to the station, and you know, like, she goes over to his house and meets his kid, and they've got a robot named Lucy, I think, or Lucille, or Lois. So he's got like a, you know, it's like the Jetsons. He's got like a robot maid. And it's got this little nice voice and everything. So everybody's got like robots in this near future that looks suspiciously like 1985. Like, it really is just like an alternate reality. They call it the near future, but I think they would have just done better if they had just said, it's 1984 in a different reality, and you know, they have robots. Well, okay, so you find out that this guy that left his kid there and knew something else was going on, he's been working with this guy, this other scientist, to make these chips. And these chips, they are being sold to this guy named Luther, who's played by Gene Simmons. He gets, okay, so when I was a kid, this guy scared me, but in this movie, Luther is just the a crazy bad guy. He could be played by anybody. They just found Gene Simmons, and he has a great face. Because all his motivations is he likes to kill people. He wants to sell this stuff for money. And man, again, logic goes out the window because this guy doesn't seem to have the tech savvy. But like, you don't know, like, you don't hear anything about how he knows how to do any of this. He just seemed like the guy who wanted to buy it. But he ends up using all this technology for all sorts of bad things. And all he really wants is the blueprints to make more of these chips. So that he can, make more money off of it. And he just happens to use all this technology that you don't know how he makes, doesn't know how he keeps it up, doesn't know you don't know where his factory is, where he makes all this stuff, how he programs any of it. Because like the robot in the house that killed the people, it's been programmed to kill, but you don't know how he did it. You don't learn anything about this character. He just does these things. And so you kind of have to just go, okay, whatever. So he kills the guy who was going to sell him the chips by this robot spider. Now the robot spiders, I mean, come on, as a 9-year-old kid was pretty crazy because these things like are full of acid. They got like a needle in their little a part of their thing, and they hit you with it and they shoot you full of fucking acid. And then they explode. So not only do you get acid shot into your body, because this guy gets it like right here, and then it just blows up. Kind of like overkill a little bit, but whatever. It's entertaining. So that guy's dead, and the guy Johnson from the house that he left his baby, he shows up right after this guy gets killed. Well, the cops end up like finding this guy, and they try to take him in for questioning Johnson. And they're trying to bring him in, and he runs when he sees Luther standing there. And this is where Luther pulls out one of the coolest guns that I thought about when I was young. And this guy has like a heat-seeking missile gun. Now the effect today is terrible. It looks terrible, but like back then, in 1984, this guy has this big-ass gun that shoots heat-seeking little mini missiles that follow you around. So they do like a first-person POV. Right here is where you see it in that gun. And this guy, that's Johnson, and he's running. And see, that's the POV shot where he can shoot you with your heat signature that he programs into the little missiles to kill you with. And that's the spider that killed the other guy. So that's what they look like, those things right there. And, I forgot. Okay, so we'll get to that though. Okay. So, so he kills this Johnson guy with this bullet, and this is where they got this like little robot that looks like a vacuum cleaner with like a little like a anteater snout that's like picking up all these chemicals, and that's how they figure out that it's got like heat-seeking and rocket propulsion and stuff like that in these bullets. And then they take it back and they figure out that the guy tries to light a cigarette and the bullet starts to like turn on, and that's when they realize that it's a heat-seeking bullet, and that it can be programmed to follow your, they say in this movie that every person has their own heat signature, which I don't know if that's a real thing. That sounds like bullshit. I mean, I think they just kind of say it to like make you believe it's real. But I know we have heat signatures, okay? I know this. Nobody freak out and, like I'm suddenly saying that we're all cold-blooded reptiles and we don't have heat signatures. What they're saying in this movie is that we have each person has specific heat signatures. Now, I don't know if that's real or not, but this movie, like I said, you got to throw logic out the window because they call things by numbers that aren't real. But I kind of like that because it feels like a more lived-in world then, because it's like, oh, you're talking about the T7654, oh no, I thought I was talking about the M7563. Anyway, so they then get this call from this lady who's trapped in this office, played by Kirstie Alley. This robot's got her trapped, and it's like he goes in there, and then this like scene kind of turns comedic. Like this pretty serious movie has this like comedic scene where he's for no reason telling the like security guard when they're watching Kirstie Alley like hiding from this robot that shocks people. It's like, hey, she's pretty attractive. It means nothing, but it's like his partner's like, oh, and it's like it was just thrown out there so that the partner who's like, going to be the love interest, you can tell, can go like, oh, brother, oh, So he goes in there and gets shocked up a bunch of times because this thing's set for stun, and he ends up bashing the shit out of this robot Like, he didn't have to do that. He could just turn it off. And that's why I was like, it's a very comedic scene. Because, yeah, he just, like, goes to town on this fucking robot. Just throws his coat over it and, like, just bashes it apart. It's in the trailer here that I'm showing you, that scene. And so they go put Kirstie Alley in protective custody, and she's freaking out because she says that Luther can find her anywhere, and he can. She's got like bugs all over her. So it's like they show in this trailer, they scan her all these times, and they find bugs everywhere. And I thought maybe you'd get to see Kirstie Alley naked, but even then, I guess she was an up-and-coming star, and she didn't have to do that. And I'm sorry that I'm saying that I wanted to see Kirstie Alley naked, but back then, I kind of want to see Kirstie Alley naked. Sorry, I'm a guy a little bit. I'm going to throw my guy card out there. Don't kill me, internet. Because look, she's hot. And I'm a single guy. I'm not going to... just shut up. Okay, so they end up like trying to get her out of there, and they get into these robot cars. There's a robot car, and his partner gets in the other one. Except these guys start like throwing these like robot race cars with bombs on them after them that are following them for something. And it's because she's got the templates in her purse. So she takes the templates out of her purse. She throws the purse out the window, and that's when it tracks after the police car with the robot in it, and it blows up. And it was really cool to see it. I mean, I don't know, like she has this like, the one cop has like this little laser turret that like fires on these things in the middle of fucking traffic. Going by, and she's shooting these like robot race car things that have bombs on them. And so they end up like trading the templates. Luther tracks them down. They think they have him, but he's really followed them. And he has Ramsey's partner, the girl, hostage, and he says, we'll trade for Kirstie Alley's character. So they go to trade, they walk over. She's got half the templates so that she has insurance, but then Gene Simmons stabs Kirstie Alley right in the back of the head with like a knife, and then he runs off. They don't have him, and then Luther goes and sneaks into the police station with a cop's uniform and is able to get on to Tom Selleck's computer with a retinal scan. And that's another thing, they have retinal scans in this. Tom Selleck used one earlier. And so he uses like this fake retinal scan to get all of Tom Selleck's information and go to his house and kidnap his kid. And so you have this whole thing at a high rise where he's kidnapped, he's got his kid, and Tom Selleck has to like overcome his fears of heights. And Gene Simmons has all these like spider robots on the ground, and they start attacking him. Like he gets his kid, but his kid gets down the thing, and he then Gene Simmons tells Tom Selleck, well, I'm still gonna kill your kid. The robots are gonna kill him when he gets down to the bottom. And it's like, oh fuck. So but then his partner shows up with the lickety split all of a sudden and saves his son, and then he has to like survive this like being stuck at the top of this elevator where all these little robot spiders are trying to kill him. Gene Simmons ends up getting thrown off the elevator by Tom, and then the robots at the bottom like fucking like stab him and fill him through full of acid, and he dies by his own creation. And at the end, he does the last, like in a horror movie, jumps up like one last time to scream like ah, and then dies. And then Tom Selleck walks away, with the girl, and he's like, "Can you cook?" And she's like, "Try me out," or something like that. I kind of sped this up because I don't know how long I get to record. I was going to do this on YouTube Live, but the camera that I have wouldn't let me see what I'm filming, and I had to figure that out, how to work that out. So that's it. It's a pretty crazy movie. It is one that I guess I do, now that I've seen it and I've had my nostalgia fill, I don't know if I ever really need to see this again. I don't remember it quite the same way as I did. The villain isn't as scary as when I was a kid, but Tom Selleck is good in this. And this story does have some really interesting ideas. And it'd have been more interesting if, like I said, they had made this movie like 10 or 15 or 20 years, or even now, and just kind of tweaked some of the Crichton's ideas. Because this does have some pretty smart stuff, and the heat-seeking missile gun and stuff, and the scene where Tom Selleck has to take this like bullet fragment that hasn't exploded out of his partner's arm is really, pretty intense, and it shows like the connection that they have already. They have really good chemistry together in this. So that's it, I guess, for this movie, this first episode of this stuff. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it kind of makes you want to see this movie. And like I said, I don't think I'll ever have a reason to see it again, but I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I chose this as my first one of these. I'm really glad that I got to tell that story about my childhood, because I don't think I've talked about it in fucking 30 years probably. But anyway, this is Rob for Smirking Gun Review saying, if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I would really like to continue doing this series. If I only get like a few views, I'll probably still do it for a while, but this is where it sucks not having good, like a good technology to do things and edit things and have like better clips and things in the movies. But I really wanted to start something new. I will be going back to watching The Expanse and Man in the High Castle and Ozark and all that stuff is still coming. So don't worry about any of that. We just put up all the reviews for Disenchantment yesterday. And yeah, that's about it. I gotta get this over with. The video's at like 26 minutes, so I don't know when this is gonna turn off on me. So again, this is Rob for Smirking Gun Review saying, thanks a lot for watching this video and have a great night. Bye.